Fankhauser is a musician, guitarist, songwriter and composer from Austria. Gerhard lived and traveled throughout Europe, Asia and America. His encounters with yogis, Sufis and shamans opened him up to the mysteries of music and paved the way to his own healing music path. Since 1995, he performs and teaches all over the world.
I had a very regular, simple childhood in the mountains of Austria, doing school, doing high school, but being not completely happy with all of that. I kind of did it because I had to. But I was playing music from small on, you know. I had been playing from the age of 12 or 14, so that was my refuge already in that time. Weekend to play with the band, you know, and to do some concerts, and that was like until my 20s or something like that. So my childhood was a very regular, normal childhood, Austria in the mountains. Just the music was always there already as a little refuge place to go out from the kind of stress or from the normal situation. The more kind of started with the traveling. Like I was studying in Vienna. I was in university for a couple of years, and I wasn't completely satisfied. There was always some longing inside myself that was not fulfilled. Even though it was easy for me to study, but nothing was really giving me the answers. I didn't even know what I was looking for, but there was not the answers. Something was not fulfilling. And in my first little travelings and my first little journeys down to the south of Europe, actually here to Tuscany region, and also to Greece and places like that, I got a first taste of something that touched me. There was something by going out there and meeting people and playing music in the street and hanging out on the beaches. Suddenly there was a flair and a flavor to life that was really attracting me, and that started to call me, like and it made me finally actually leave university and make a break from all of that, because I wanted to discover something else. I just went into an adventure. I knew I want to go east. I didn't really know why, but I just knew I want to go east. That was India in that time. I was on my way to India. I made a break from the university, thought I'd give myself 1 year break to find out some other things before I continue with my studies. And it took me already 1 year to get to India at the end of the day. So anyway, I stopped in Greece. I lived a couple of months there on a beach, you know, just dropping out completely. Slowly tuning into the simple life, having my little house under a tree, cooking my food, playing music, you know, starting to tune into something else. And then via Turkey, I spent another couple of months more in Turkey, and slowly made my way towards India. So it was already nearly a year had passed until I got finally to India. And finally I stayed 5 years in Asia without coming back to Europe at all. So, you know, this was a quite big travel, and full of adventures and full of stories and full of magic, and it just changed my whole life upside down. And nothing was the same after that. In the beginning I had a little bit left. I had some savings left for the, let's say, first 1.5 years. I had still some money in my pocket. But in that time I had started to make jewelry. I had started to make jewelry from silver, from precious stones, from shells, and that kind of was supporting my travels. Like I was making jewelry, I had my little small store with me, I was selling it wherever I was going, and I was pretty skilled, did nice kind of intricate work, and so people liked it, and I kind of got along. I mean, I was doing a very simple life. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was sleeping everywhere. Not in a hotel, not in any organized places. You found me on the beach or wherever. I wasn't really traveling with a lot of money, you know. I lived 5 years in India, or not only India, but around that. And it was a big school for me musically, because the approach to Indian music is so entirely different. And actually it was what I was looking for. Because I remember I was bored from the music in Austria. I was bored from classical musicians that come with their suits with their orchestra and reading their notes. You know, it just didn't do it to me. It felt like, okay, beautiful, some great stuff really in classical music, but the style was just outdated for me. Something did not match for me now. And when I came to Asia, the approach, like in India, to music was spiritual, was entirely spiritual. For them, music is a yoga, is a discipline for your spiritual process of awakening, of change, of transformation, of ultimately enlightenment. But their approach to music is entirely spiritual. Means you're entering that path and you learn to breathe, you learn to be present, you learn to listen, you dive into the music, and it's a change of consciousness that actually counts, and not the music by itself. When I went to travel in that period of time, in those 5 years in Asia, the music arose as a central theme in my life. Like suddenly I had enough freedom to allow that to happen. Before that, I wouldn't allow that. There was too much pressure in society and from family, what to do, who to become, what to be. Suddenly all of that was gone, so the true passion can come out. And the music became more and more powerful in that period of time, more and more strong. And slowly, I started to meet very interesting people, interesting teachers, spiritually, musically, and my own music changed. Just with the years, I realized, whenever I sit down and play, there is a magic, there is people gathering, something is happening. So some energy started to change within me, and the music became more a tool of communion. Many times it would be even a communion with the nature, just to sit, there is a full moon rising, sit down, plug in with the music into that moment. A communion with nature, a communion with a few friends, with people, with a fire. It was not concerts in that time, yeah? Or it was just living the music, being a troubadour in a way, like being a bard, being a troubadour, living the music every day, communicating with it, going to the village, playing with the people, sitting in the temple, praying with them, with the music. So it became something very lively and magical in a way, real. And the turning point where I started to be aware about what's happening, because until then I hadn't been aware. I just enjoyed. It was just a great joy, you know. I had a good time. I really had a good time, and life was a blast. But I wasn't really aware. But when I met the teachings of one Sufi master from India, these teachings really opened my perception. Like, he got enlightened through the practice of music. And I found his teachings, and it was like a homecoming. Suddenly I understood what I'm doing. Suddenly I realized why I had so much passion for that. Because ultimately I was not interested in religion. I was not interested in any kind of isms, but in a free and open path to a higher consciousness. And that's what the music provides us. It's a universal language of the soul. And if you go into it, if you allow yourself to completely merge into the song, into the playing, into the dancing, you will have a spiritual experience. I think to break out from your kind of box that you grew up with, box of society, of family, is so vital. It's so good for you. You know, just get beyond that conditioning. Life is much more than what it seems. It's much more than what you think that it has to be. Yeah? And that's what you get when you go out. You go into another country, you go into another culture, you start to move, to travel, your mind opens, your perception opens. Yeah? I'm a pretty mental person, and like I spent quite many years in school, you know, in school, high school, studying. I like to write, I'm good in mathematics, I like to calculate, I like mysticism. Mysticism in words, in numbers, in formulas. Like, I'm pretty mentally, let's say, interested. So I think the mind is a very helpful tool to develop, and the intellect is a great tool, but until to a certain point. And if you want to go beyond that point, the mind doesn't help you anymore. Many times, actually, the mind makes us a lot of troubles, because there is not so many people that really have a clear translation in their mind of what is actually happening. They see a lot of movies that are running in their own mind. They see the world through their own glasses, through the filters of their own mind, and it creates a lot of problems. It creates a lot of confusions, also on a personal level as well on a collective level. So that kind of filters and conditionings of our mind are actually standing in between you and real life. I'll tell you a story. Stories are always better to get those things clear. It was in that period of time when I was traveling in India. There was one time, I was in my early 20s, as I said before. I was living in a small village in the Himalayas. Small village on the foothills of the Himalayas. I had a little house there for a couple of years. It was my base. From there on, I was doing walks into the Himalayas, to the temple places, going down to Varanasi to study music, meet people, have a good time. And one day, some people passed by, and some friends came over and said, look, there is this amazing gathering happening. Kind of few days of a music gathering, all kind of really interesting people, musicians, storytellers, like, just go there, you know, it's a must, yeah? And so I went, and it was in a beautiful place, on top of a hill, an old temple place. You had a view all around the hills, the foothills, until the white Himalaya range in the background. There was eagles soaring around. It was a magical spot. And we had that 3 days music meeting, gathering there. And one of the nights we played music non-stop for 10 hours. There was not one word spoken. That was the rule of the night. No talking. Only music. Or silence, listening, breathing. Not everybody was musicians. Some were just there the night and listening, enjoying. But 10 hours non-stop. And at some stage of the night, the music reached a kind of a climax, an intensity that I had never experienced before. And it was kind of overwhelming. Suddenly there was that moment of just pure power of music, pure bliss. And I was out of my body. I was very young. I had no idea what's happening. I wasn't a spiritual person at all in that time. But suddenly I was out of my body, and I was looking at the whole happening from above. Like I was hovering under the ceiling, looking down at this gathering, seeing myself down there playing. And I'm like, that's far out. And it was a moment of expansion, a moment where my consciousness just expanded into a different level, into a more multidimensional reality. And it was just enough long to feel that, to enjoy that, to realize, okay, this is happening. I'm up here and I'm also down there. And of course, after some time, the mind came in, talking from the mind before, and started to make a mess, say this is not possible. You can't be up here and also down there playing, you know. And of course, when that started, I was back in my body, having to play. But this little experience, it was one of many magical experiences I had through the music. And it was the first time in my life that I went beyond, clearly beyond my mind, into a perception of myself as a larger being, as a multidimensional being. At least it made me realize I'm not my body. This was very clear. Whatever it meant, that experience, but this was clear. I'm not my body, but I'm a consciousness, a spirit, a being that is much larger, much grander, that somehow is hosted in that body. And this was precious. This was so precious to me. Like, I remember it took me days and days and days to slowly digest what happened. And it also made me realize that ultimately it's not about music. Ultimately, the music is a tool for us. It's a tool to expand with our being, to commune, to go beyond that kind of box of reality that we're in. And that's the magic of music. That's where it really has its power. And that's what it does in a simple party of dancing with each other, in a choir of people singing with each other. That's what the music does. It makes you go beyond your little personal island of identity.